Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining the Clallam EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. We're really happy to have an important partner in the community, Darrell Jenkins, on with us today from First Security Bank. And he's going to be talking to us today about First Security Bank's community involvement and their consumer, business, home, and real estate lending that they do, and their retail branches and their treasury management that they offer. So a few housekeeping items before they kick off. First off, if you would try to keep yourself on mute so we don't inadvertently get background noise, I'd appreciate that. And then also, if you have any questions for Darrell, we like this to be interactive. So please raise your hand and we'll call on you, or alternatively, if you'd like me to ask the question, put your question in the chat and I will ask it on your behalf. So with that, Darrell, thank you for joining us, and go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Really appreciate the invite from Mitch a few months ago, who had the chance to work together for the Breakfast Network at the Swim Chamber. So thank you for letting me be here. This is such an important part of our community, and I absolutely love your organization. Wanted to just give you a little bit of a high-level highlight about how we work with the community. As Colleen said, I work for First Security Bank. I've been there for about 6 years. My role specifically is to work with business owners, nonprofits, and municipalities for lending. My favorite part of banking, I've been in banking since the late 1990s, and really it's the people, because my job is boring, but it's your job that's really exciting. So for me, it's always been great to get to know what you as leaders in the community are doing, how we can help you financially and in other ways, even by volunteering, as we'll get into later in our presentation. So again, the best part of banking is you. I cover specifically the Olympic and Kitsap Peninsula, so you've probably seen me around here and there at various events. We were out supporting the OMC at the Sunny Six Killer tournament just a few weeks ago. We also supported the Kitsap Humane Society. We were there in person sponsoring and working with them a couple of weekends ago as well, and many, many other events. And hopefully going forward, we can, work with you even more. But I thought I would start today by just kind of going over who First Security Bank is, other than maybe seeing a blurb or two about us here and there. Who is this bank, right? So we started officially, I guess, 1907 is our history going back. There was a time there we used to be a credit union, and then in 2004, we became an FDIC insured bank. And as you can see in the slide there, this is our mantra: building a truly great place to work at and to bank at. So our philosophy is, if we hire the right people, we take care of each other as employees, we're going to do the right thing for the community. So it's very important to us that as employees who are a part of the community, we make sure that they are putting their best foot forward. So we all hear things about mission statements, values. At First Security Bank, we really believe in those values. It's not just something that someone sketched on a board. When we get together and we're trying to see how we can better impact the community, we get in a room and we really go for the best idea. We don't believe in the hierarchical system where one person's at the top and that person's, whatever their concept is, just rules. Instead, we're very collaborative, and I think that's what makes us more effective in being able to really help people in the community. We have obviously a great affinity towards values, integrity, all of those things that you would expect out of any bank. But I think going back to that core value of, are we hiring people who are smart? Are they driven? We need people with high energy. people who are going to consistently, day after day, season after season, year after year, come back and serve the community. And the third part of that is the person who works at the bank a kind person. I think we all have experienced service in the last decade that has declined, generally speaking. And, we wonder what happened to the 1990s or the early 2000s when people held the door open for one another or said please and thank you, or thank you for coming into my business today. Please come back. These are the kind of things that we feel are core values, and we live that every day. And if we don't, we hold each other accountable, and we make sure that we are coming back and saying, how could we improve? How could we have more effectively been kind to our customer? How could we have been better at being a better communicator, being of greater value to people in the community? So that's all I'll say about that. I hope you get a chance to experience what we're about. Just so that I don't forget, the second Tuesday of every month, we partner with the SWIM Chamber, and we invite you all to come. It's at 114 South SWIM Avenue. That's our SWIM branch location. The Chamber has had a Chamber breakfast network for some time now, and we offer to host it the second Tuesday of every month at 8 a.m. So we hope you'll join us. Mitch was there last month, and he gave an outstanding presentation, well attended, and we hope to see you there. It's not terribly formal. It's casual. We have muffins, we have coffee, we get to know each other. If there are ideas that you have, you can share them. There are questions or challenges you have had, great place to casually interact with people and get some good advice. Colleen, of course, is there from Habitat. She's the current president of the Chamber, and she also does a great job of corralling people together. So we're inviting you out to that event monthly. So kind of going forward, as our other Colleen mentioned, we're going to kind of talk about the pillars of First Security Bank. What are the things that we're built on as far as what we can contribute to the community? And of course, like any bank, we have a strong consumer lending. We do all the personal loans, unsecured boat loans, all of that kind of thing, home lending. We're quite flexible when it comes to home lending. There's a lot of things that we can do that maybe the community didn't know. I know specifically there's a push for more ADUs in the community, and I think that there's been some loosening up of the regulations on how to get those built more quickly. And we certainly offer lending for ADUs. In fact, we can even take the income that you could be receiving if there's income involved on the ADU to help someone qualify on the income side. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. We do first-time home buyer assistance as well. We also are able to lend in other states outside of simply Washington. We lend in about 7 states. So if you're thinking of buying a property outside of Washington, let us know, because chances are we can assist with that. Business lending, is everyone still seeing the slide?
Yes. Yep.
Good. So there in business lending, that's where I work. So I do loans up to, about $1 million, $1.5 million. It could be commercial real estate. It could be lines of credit. It could be equipment loans. All of those types of things that people in our community right here in Clallam and Jefferson County need. So I invite people to check us out, see what we're all about. We're low pressure. We always say you're going to love us. We don't think that we're going to be your only bank. Give us a chance. If you don't like what you see, you're not tied to the hip with us. But I think that you would enjoy taking a look at what we have to offer. And things are fluid. People have different reasons for going to different banks at different times, right? So we don't judge. We're just here to serve and to help businesses in our community. I talked a little bit about home lending going on to commercial. When I talk to a customer, whether that be a nonprofit or otherwise, and it's something that's maybe $3, $4, $5 million, or it's something that is maybe a specialty commercial lending need, I hand it off to my partner. I still work closely with that partner. I don't, leave you in the wind, but we work together to find the right solution for you. If you're curious about our lending limit, I think legally it's about 60 million, but generally we're lending around 20 to 30 million as a light ceiling, if you will. And that probably covers, 90% of the needs in this community. But if there's something bigger, we can always have that discussion. So what's our specialty when it comes to commercial lending? I would just say the basic, C&I lending. We're not the fastest in the market and we're not the cheapest. There's nothing wrong with being fast. I closed a real estate loan just a couple of weeks ago, end to end in 5 weeks. So that was fast, considering you have to get an appraisal, title, and all that good stuff. And you know how it is with appraisers. You may or may not be front of the line. And so the process could take 6 to 8 weeks. But the point is that it's not always about being the quickest, even though we may be, feeling like, oh, I've really got to get this done. I got to get it done now. We do work as fast as we can, but it's more important to do things right the first time so we don't have to go back and say, oh, we went too fast on that, we missed something, right? So, we believe on really being accurate and making you feel comfortable end to end for the entire experience. From time to time, we do get people who are bent on rate. What's your rate for a commercial property? And, they're shopping, looking for the 5.75 or the 6.25. And honestly, we may not be the lowest rate. Possibly, but not likely. Again, it's all about the end-to-end experience that we can provide for you. And I think as consumers, all of us realize that, we'd rather spend another $4 for that meal at Cocopelli's than somewhere else because of the service that we're getting, right? So it's the same thing with banking, and so just bear that in mind. Moving on high level to our retail branch network, we have 27 branches now. Recently, just 2 years ago, we purchased 7 banks, or branches I should say, from Columbia because, as you know, they were merging with Umpqua. The government said they were too big. They had to get rid of 7 branches, and so that kind of growth for us was perfect because we're not trying to grow too quickly. We're big enough to do, any sophisticated need that you may have, but we're small enough to still show up and bring a cup of coffee and sit down and say, how's it going, Mitch? Or how's it going, John? How can we better help you? You'll find that any of our branches are going to give you outstanding service. Geographically, I think I have a slide here I can pull up. I'm going to switch slides and just give you a different. Okay. So there you can just see geographically where we sit. As I mentioned, we are in Washington and Oregon as far as retail banking. Our headquarters is in Mountlake Terrace over near Seattle, and we span that area all the way out towards, well, here, obviously, Port Angeles, Swim, Port Townsend, Hadlock, Silverdale, Poulsbo, all the way out to Westport, Olympia, Lacey, and all the way south as you see into Oregon. So we have a really good network of retail branches. That also includes not just, your basic banking, but We have Treasury services, so that's a big thing. If you're, a business owner with a lot of employees, you've got to do payroll. You're not going to write checks anymore. You want to do ACH. With the prevalence of fraud, you're going to want to make sure you're protected. So we have all of those services like Positive Pay. You can even do wires, remote deposit from your office, all of those types of things. We're aggressive on pricing with that because we don't want fees to get between the bank and the customer. And so for some time now, I want to say probably 3-4 years now, we've offered an earnings credit of 1%. So if you hold so much in deposits, we take 1% of that and we credit that amount against the fees. And so in many cases, small business owners don't have any fees or very, very small fees in their monthly account. And, most people don't even look at it, right? You just kind of figure, well, it's the cost of doing business. I've been paying $90 a month, so I just let it go. But, it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion, and, we'd be happy to look at that. So that's kind of high level, about the products that we offer, about where we are at as far as our footprint. Are there questions at this moment?
Nope, it doesn't look like it.
Okay, very good. So as we talked about briefly, we want to touch on the community activity. I think that's probably more important than the products that we offer. Products are important, but how can we help you? If you're a nonprofit, we would love to volunteer with your organization. We pay every employee two paid days a year to volunteer with the organization of their choice. We don't say you got to work at this place or that place. We leave it up to each employee to make that decision. We do work with many different organizations and offer them choices, but whatever they're passionate about, they get 2 days off, fully paid, to go and help. So I put the call out to you. If you need volunteers in your nonprofit organization, let us know. It literally will go to our officer here that handles that, and she will send the word out to the entire bank so that people know that you're looking for volunteers to help. Some of the organizations that we partner with, and you can find more of them on our website, but I'll just mention a few that you probably know locally. One is Squim Museum and Arts, North Kitsap Fish Line over in Poulsbo, Special Olympics Washington, and Jefferson Land Trust. Those are just a few of the partners that we work with. So again, we'd love to work with you. We spent over 6,000 volunteer hours last year helping organizations just like yours. We also spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, like many other financial institutions, in donations. We also have local shredded events. You've probably seen on a Saturday, people out there saying, hey, bring all that stuff you don't want left in your garbage. We'll shred it for free. Please take advantage of those events. If you don't know about them, let me know. I'll send you an email and let you know when we're coming around. We talked about the swim chamber already. I do want to put a blurb in for Rain Shadow Cafe because they bring the coffee on that monthly event. Thank you to them. And if that helps you make your decision to come, then so be it. Something else that we have instituted over in Poulsbo, and maybe it's something that we can institute in Squim or Port Angeles or some other location, is what we call an epic event. So we designed a couple of years ago a networking group that's free to the public. And the whole idea was that we can get together to talk about our challenges as business owners, to talk about what works, what's making us successful, and just learn from each other. And at each event, we invite a nonprofit to come and talk about what they do. And so over in Kitsap County and Poulsbo, that's been working very well. We started out monthly, but as you know, there's tons of networking groups, right? And sometimes we get network fatigue. So what we decided to do was do it quarterly, and that seems to work pretty well. We had an event back in June. Watson Furniture was the guest speaker, and so was North Fish Line, the food bank up there. And so that was a real success. We raised money for that organization, and then people just simply got to mingle and get to know one another as business owners. If that's something that you would like to see here, please let me know. We would love to chat with you about, doing that. Paid by us, we typically host it either at our branch. We could look at partnering with you at a different location, but again, it's something where we do add value to the community. Along those lines, here in Sequim, last spring of 24, we provided a fraud prevention workshop. That's something that people need. How many of you have ever, received something that you knew was a scam in your email? Yeah, in your text, right? And I won't ask for a show of hands, but how many of us have clicked on something inadvertently and thought, oh no, what did I do, right? That happens. It happens to very smart people, so don't feel bad if it happened to you. We have customers that come into the bank all the time, holding up a piece of paper saying, it's legitimate. I need to send this wire. And, unbeknownst to them, someone who has a team of people who are just greedy and very dishonest has got it down to a science on how to trick people. So anyway, we did this fraud prevention seminar. Our team from Treasury came from Seattle. So our fraud team came from our loss prevention, fraud people came. And we had a panel talk. We also partnered with a local title company there in Port Angeles. They came out and joined us and talked to people about how to make sure that you're not taken. Practical things. If you get an email, don't accept it at face value. I could have been dealing with Lena for 20 years. And she sends me an email and says, Darrell, I need you to change the payment on this. And I'm not going to do that until I call Lena and verify that she sent me the email, because somebody could be trying to spoof her email. So tips like that, and there are probably a dozen solid tips that you really should hear. I would highly recommend that if you're interested in having something like that hosted in the community at your nonprofit, at the EDC or somewhere else, we would love to set that up for you at your place of business. So again, something very, very practical that we're promoting. We've done it in Poulsbo, we've done it in Sequim, and we've done it in about 3 or 4 other places in our footprint. Another event that I like that's really, really super fun, it's happening in Poulsbo. We've done it for 20 years, and it's Poulsbo Kids Day. And that's a really, really fun time. So what happens is everybody in the city gets together at First Security. If you know where that's at, where the Home Depot is, I'm talking the mayor, police, fire, ambulance, and it's all focused on the kids. So there's food and drinks for the kids. They put up a racetrack for bicycles where they can all have fun. Free helmets are given out. There's all kinds of food vendors and sponsors. So when someone, pays money to sponsor, that money doesn't go to us. It goes to the food bank. It benefits the community. There's music. There's a martial arts show. There's all kinds of things that are just magical. And this year, for the first time in 20 years, we're going to have a dunk tank. So you're going to see local management, and you're going to see even some from Seattle come out, sit in the dunk tank, and make it fun for everybody. And again, money that's raised will go back to the community and the food bank. So that's, again, something that I wanted to mention that's fun. It's something that maybe we could do here one day. I'd love to see, a kids' day in Port Angeles or swim that would benefit the community. So these are just a few ways that I feel are of value to the community. They mean a lot to me, and I wanted to just share them with you, and I appreciate having the time to do so. And again, I'd like to open it up for questions from you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Darrell?
I have a burning question. How did you get on the infamous billboard there in Port Angeles? Because that's how I first
Yeah.
met you, actually.
Infamous?
Yeah.
Famous.
Famous, excuse me.
Yeah, well, about 4 years ago, I guess it was on the edge of COVID. Maybe we were just getting out. They asked if I would get on the billboard. I've always been passionate about this bank, vocal about it too, right? Because I worked at probably at least half a dozen different banks. And I started in Texas at Texas Commerce Bank back in the 90s. And I've seen all different kinds, including Chase, Bank of America. I worked for them too. And this is one of my favorite places to bank. They quoted me on the website and all that kind of thing. And so they said, how would you like to be on the billboard? And I said, really, I prefer not just me, put a group on there. To me, they just stuck my face up there, and everybody, all my friends are just like, it's big. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. It's big. So I begged the head of retail. I was like, hey, put a group up there. So they did change it. If you drive by there now, right across from Price Ford, there's a group of us now, which I think is better. And I think it helps people say, oh yeah, I know those people, and it's kind of a fun talking point. So.
Yeah. So Dale has his hand raised, and then there was a question from John in the chat.
Good morning. I've
Good
been
morning.
thinking a lot about the economic chaos that's happening with the tariffs and other decisions that are being made in the country economically. And I'm wondering how this chaos is affecting your lending decisions at the bank.
Yeah, very, very good question. So our lending has strategically always been, since we became an FDIC insured bank 21 years ago, very conservative. So we have a very, very clear line of sight into how we lend. There's some shifting there. I want to say when I first started here 6 years ago, we were doing a lot of retail lending. COVID changed that. And so we're a little bit more cautious on the hospitality and retail side. But because we traditionally have that caution, today's environment that you're alluding to is not greatly affecting us because we've always held to that conservative lending practice. And what I mean by that is, I get calls all the time. People are shopping and they want to see what we can do too. And we may say no because of our conservative viewpoint on the hospitality industry or retail. And, other lenders may go full force into that, which is fine. But we feel it's a disservice to tell a brand new restaurant owner, here's $100,000 on your first month of business, because we'd rather encourage them to get 2 years of, a solid financial cash flow under their belt, and not get in over their head. I'd rather have that conversation than, yeah, I shouldn't have lent you the $100,000. Maybe it was too early, right? As far as the more technical aspects of our bonds and that kind of thing, people much smarter than me handle that side of it in the back of the house. But we are a very, very strong bank, and have been. We've never laid off anybody. We never got rid of anybody through COVID. The only thing we did was, instead of putting a post for 30 new hires, we shrunk that down to about 15 because we didn't want to let anybody go. And in the middle of COVID, we even raised our minimum pay for every employee. So I only say that to give validity to the fact that that conservative attitude protects our employees, it protects the bank, and in turn, it protects the community because we can continue to lend to you folks.
I have a follow-up question. I know that the peninsula is doing pretty well economically in terms of the tourism business, we seem to be doing better than some other parts of the state in folks that receive a lot of tourists for a number of reasons. And I know that Colleen and her group has been working a lot on, well, let's see, economic development. Isn't that the name of your organization? And I'm wondering, from your perspective, we're kind of out, we're not on any main transport lines. It's hard for businesses, light manufacturing and other businesses to base themselves here because we're hard to get to. Have you seen any, from your perspective, have any sort of advice, or is there anybody in your bank who could provide any advice about how to charge up the economic development here for businesses that make things?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I think that's very, very pertinent, manufacturing. So one thing that we did in one of our networking meetings is we had our marketing team come out and literally they put together a packet and a presentation for businesses on how they could better advertise and have better visibility and work with other partners in the community. I think it's not just a matter of advertising, but how can that manufacturer better partner with other people? And that's where it comes into, we don't have all the answers, but we can create a platform where we can get together and talk about solutions that would be better. But I would be happy to send you that packet that our marketing team created. It's approved for distribution, and that might have some ideas that could help business owners that you described get more visibility and network with other people here.
So one thing, Dale, I've got to jump in and add is that our employee, Roy Mann, is the account executive for Impact Washington, which is the manufacturing extension partnership of the state. Every state has one. And we have worked with Impact Washington to have our own representative here. So they have consultants that are experts in all sorts of facets of manufacturing. And Roy meets with manufacturers, and we also we receive leads from the state on manufacturers that are looking for a location in Washington state, typically because they want to have the low cost power and the green power. But some of the limitations that we have in our county is that we don't have rail, and 9 times out of 10, they want to have access to rail. We don't have natural gas, and we're limited by the amount of power a company can receive. We're limited to a federal restriction called New Large Single Load, NLSL, which is set by BPA, Bonneville Power Administration, because both the Clallam PUD and the city of Port Angeles, that are our 2 power providers in our county, are 100% load following from BPA. When the Bonneville dams were created, they didn't want, Congress didn't want, say, steel manufacturers to move from Pennsylvania over to Washington State or Oregon or Wyoming or Idaho to get this cheaper hydropower. So they put a restriction in place that any new user would have to use less than 10 megawatts in a single year. And if they used more than 10 megawatts, then their rate doubled going forward forever, and they would get charged going back from the time they began. So what they can do is 9.9 megawatts one year, and then the next year 18.8 megawatts, and then, increasing by 9.9. But that's a huge limitation for us and other counties that don't have their own dams. So where you see Wenatchee growing like crazy and Port of Moses Lake and other areas, that's because they're located in either Grant, Chelan, or Douglas counties that own their own dams and are not restricted to this new large single load restriction. So it's affecting so many places across Washington state. And it's a real frustration of the state that the other thing is to get new power permitted takes years and years and years. And so there's been a lot of discussion about that as well. We'd love to see we've been working with Clallam PUD, and we'd love to see a SMR, a small modular reactor, or some kind of hydro or hydrogen or something on the west end, because we are, like, people use the analogy of we're at the end of the extension cord for our power, the end of the transmission lines. And, so if there's any break anywhere along the line, we get hit. And poor Forks, the PUD is doing a great job of advocating for them. And the Bonneville Power is now starting to come around somewhat about that, but they look at their investment in power infrastructure based on how many homes are they or businesses are they supporting in that process. So anyway, I see probably more information that you wanted, but we really, at the EDC, we work very closely with manufacturers. And right now we're talking with 6 different manufacturers that are all interested in the biomass industry. That is like the next big thing. And we did our study, and there's 3.8 million tons of biomass that we can access through barging in Clallam County. And we're hoping that that will create a lot of jobs over the next few years. But that's
It's
through our
really
Clallam Forest Products Innovation Program that Roy is managing. He's our program manager, and he has his hand up. But Roy, I'm going to let Lena talk, and then you can come back and share your perspective firsthand regarding manufacturing.
Colleen, that is so interesting related to the power and growing and, manufacturers coming here. I've never heard that that information before. So interesting. But I just was going to say that I have an accounting business, and we have been working with First Security Bank with mutual clients for several years. And they have been so great to work with. Darrell and his team are amazing and just have been very helpful for us as an accountant working with small businesses. So that was all I was going to say. And thank you so much for coming, Darrell. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for your comments. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Lena. And Roy?
Sure. I second that, Darrell. I really appreciate the community engagement is really your core kind of North Star at First Security. And thanks, Colleen, for the great observations about manufacturing. And Dale's right. Access and infrastructure, it does present challenges, not insurmountable ones. That's the good news. And so a concrete idea I have, Darrell, is since the manufacturing is also a lane that is of interest to First Security, we have in early October, we've been doing a fair amount of planning around what's called Manufacturers Week. On October 7th, there's a group that'll be coming through Port Townsend. If there's a couple of different things that you might want to plug or sort of have one of your team members plug into, I'd be happy to coordinate with you if that's something that's of interest. Thank you.
Absolutely. Please send me an email or give me a call, and I would love to follow up with you on that. Thank you. And I think there was a question in chat about nonprofits from John Temple.
Yes.
So helping a new nonprofit get started. So we can certainly help with the banking part of it, but I could connect you with other local nonprofit leaders to help you have a better start. I don't claim to be the expert. I'm very grateful for Colleen, who was the expert on that manufacturing question. So I would defer to other people that we've worked with who have successfully begun nonprofits. Either here, I know several in Kitsap County too that have done it from the ground up and are relatively new, 3 to 5 years, I would say is relatively new. And I'm sure that they would be happy to talk with you or whoever it is that's looking to start that. So again, yes, please contact me and I'd be happy to, put you in contact with the best person for that.
We too have a lot of information for nonprofits. We've done classes on best practices for nonprofits. Jennifer Burkhart, who's an attorney, gave a presentation on the law when the law changed in Washington State. And also we have sample bylaws and sample articles of incorporation, that kind of thing, and all the process to create a new nonprofit. And there's a nonprofit called Org Support that will get you set up and go through the IRS process. And it costs about $5,000 that they charge $2,500. And this is just one. I'm sure there are other options. I know there are, but we use this one when we created the Natural Resource Innovation Center, a 501c3. And we believe that 501c3 is going to get funding through the Rockefeller Foundation here shortly. So, and maybe we'll have a coffee chat about that and we can get Rachel on from there. And of course, Derek Kilmer works there now and has helped us in that regard. That would be a good one, Mitch. Maybe I'll reach out to him and see if he can come on and talk about what he's doing at Rockefeller. After we finalize our grant, of course.
Of course.
So, yeah. So anyway, the EDC has resources for John, for folks that are thinking about starting up nonprofits. Roy, go ahead.
I have a question, Darrell, that's back to the earlier part of your presentation. You mentioned accessory dwelling units and lending, and in some instances based on rent. What I'm wondering is if you could unpack that a little bit more. Is that a projected rental income or existing rent on an existing ADU that's being sort of renovated or repurposed? Can you kind of go into the weeds a little bit with that?
I can't speak to the getting into the weeds because that's home lending, and I'm on the business lending side. However, if that's something you're interested in, our local rep, his name is Terrence, and he can certainly get into the weeds with you on that. I suspect it's projected income after that unit is built, but he can get more into the weeds.
Sure.
Again,
I welcome follow-up intro and just to learn a little bit more.
You bet, and thanks for the question.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Darrell? Okay. If not, thank you so much, Darrell, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and your work here on the Olympic Peninsula. And we will be seeing you all next week. Mitch, who's on next week? Do you recall? Hate to put you on the spot.
No worries. It is. Oh man, I am on the spot.
Someone incredibly important.
Yeah, next week we have the best guest, and it is It is Dave Gearing, Executive Director of
Gary.
Manufacturing Industrial Council.
So he is the one that put together Core Plus, which is a program across Washington State that was originally designed for aerospace and by Boeing. They wanted in the high schools not apprenticeship, but programs through career tech education that would get students exposed and ready for additional training to come work for Boeing. And so all of these programs, and they have it in construction, in maritime, and in aerospace, I think are the three primary, but the curriculum is written by the business side. So it's not educators that created the curriculum. It's very hands-on, and it's all curriculum that was created by the manufacturers and the business side. So it's received a lot of funding from the state over the years. Of course, with our current funding situation, their funding has been cut. But if we'd like to see it more in our high schools. And right now it is in Nia Bay, and I think another school district. We have 5 school districts in our county, and I believe it's in 2 school districts, the curriculum program is. But again, it's very hands-on. It's designed by the employers and to give students exposure to what kind of skills are needed when they get out after they graduate. So, and there's a great connection with Peninsula College with Core Plus, and so he's going to talk about the program next week. All right. Well, with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week if you're available. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Have a good
Darrell.
day.
Thanks, Darrell. Great presentation.
Thanks, Darrell.